more of a
Hey everyone! Welcome back to another fun town hall. Tonight we are going to be discussing anthologies, what it takes to put into them, to create them, and so many more questions. We have a great group of authors with tons of experience with anthologies, and I totally feel almost like starstruck because each of them has some amazing collections out there. But without further ado, let me bring them in and let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get everybody to say hi from the chat. So guys, we're going to go around and I'll let you introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about what you write, and just kind of, I guess, tell us one of your favorite anthologies you've been in. We are going to start with Adam.
So my name's Adam Gaffin. I write near future science fiction where the heroines don't wait to be rescued. They rescue themselves. It's the Cassidy Chronicles. I haven't done a lot of stories of my own out in anthologies. I've had a few, but lately I've gotten on into the publishing side of anthologies, and AC and I, who I see is in the chat, AC and I have put out one together, and we are working on a second one now. So,
greetings, fellow humans. I am hopefully one of your favorite JDs, and if not, hopefully one of your favorite indie authors from Puerto Rico. My name is JD Estrada. I've got 19 books out. Apart from those 19 books, I have participated in 2 anthologies. It would have been 3, but the third one got scrapped. So I have the good thing when that happens is that just means that you have a loose story that needs, either another home or you just make a short story collection. I'm not as experienced as the people on this panel in terms of coordinating stuff, but I've put my name in the hat and it's been chosen a couple of times and it feels nice.
Sweet. I'm kind of with you on that. And then we're going to drop down right here.
Hello, everybody. I'm Wiley Young. I'm a horror author, winner of the 2021 Splatterpunk Award for Best Novel. My horror novels pretty much span all over the place, from extreme to quiet to whatever. And I've been in quite a few anthologies and had a few that didn't go through. And Madilynn asked for my favorite, and it would probably be this one, this Clickers Forever, which was a huge honor to be invited to. It was great. And I actually got to continue that series after doing the short story for that anthology, and just had a lot of them. They're really fun.
Awesome. And I'm going to apologize for loud noises. My cat is trying to interrupt the show tonight.
Hey there, I'm Harriet, and this is actually the first anthology that I am putting forward. It's Horoscope. It comes out on Monday. I have been selected in a couple anthologies myself, but I usually just write horror novels, short stories, all that jazz. So I'm pretty new to the anthology thing too.
Sweet. And then we've got Miss Amanda.
Well, I sound a little bit more seasoned, I think, because I've been around forever. Hello, I'm Amanda. I write under the name A.A. Warren. I'm a speculative fiction writer with primarily focusing on fantasy. I have The Magic in Fire, When Sleeping Giants Wake, and my bestseller, A Fantasy Christmas. We have another one coming out soon, which Maddie's involved in. It's called Deals in Blood. And then I'm branching out past fantasy, and we're adding our young adult and sci-fi into the mix this year.
Yes. Oh, and of course my cat bumped my camera.
Obviously.
Perks of having the cats, guys. So you get to see them all probably come in at some point. And I've currently got a puppy sleeping in the floor. So let's see who's hanging out with us. Currently, we've got JD breaking the fourth wall. Anita is here with us. JD says hi. Books by Tiffany. AC. This is way too late for me, but yeah, we are glad you are. Coca Lima's here. And then, oh, we have a question from AC, which we can totally bring up here in a little bit. And then AC's have a story in an anthology that I didn't edit / published. I'm going to say you added a little bit to that, AC, or is it one that a new one? I'm curious. Okay. So, guys, before we dive into some of the questions I have lined up, we're going to pull one up from the boss man. Joe may still be hanging out in the chat. He said hello earlier, but his question for the panel is, what have you seen other anthologies do that's the biggest red flag, and you made sure you would not be a part of the anthologies you create, curate, or submit to yourselves? So what are those red flags, guys?
Okay. For me, it's the pay-to-play anthologies. It's okay. Submit your story to the anthology, and it's a $25 buy-in or a $50 buy-in, or whatever it is. And they have all sorts of reasons. That it's for the cover art, it's for the marketing, it's for the this, it's for the that. If you're charging, look, it goes back to, as an indie author, money always goes from the publisher to the author, not the other way around. Always. If you're publishing an anthology, then you're taking the risks that anthology is going to make money for you. You got to put that money out of your pocket. So no, absolutely not. You want pay to play? Nope, not submitting. I'm not going to badmouth you, but I'm running away.
Yeah. Joe says it's so we can steal your lunch money, suckers.
Right.
And then Jonathan joined us. So who else has thoughts on the red flags?
For me, the major issue is intellectual property. Some people want you to participate in a collection, and then whatever you write, it's theirs, and you don't have a right to publish it. They can do whatever they want with those characters. And it reminds me a bit of what happens with a lot of comic book writers, that they create a character and then it gets, they don't own it and they can't do anything with it, and it's like they keep doing other horrendous stuff with their IPs, and it's like I have no say in it. That's why you have to read the contracts and make sure that one of the guarantees is that it continues to be your property.
And always check to make sure that the rights that are enumerated in those contracts are just for the literary side of it. Because if you get interested in a short story for a film and they own it, tough.
Yikes. That's something I had not considered, the filming portion of it.
Always keep your film, your audiobook, anything that's not literary or specifically spelled out in your contract. But my other big red flag is the ones that will pay you in exposure, which you can then pay your bills with. I pay my bills in 800 exposures.
Oh yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it per se. Bringing up the old adage, it isn't wrong, but we just don't do it. And there's that one, and oh shoot, what was it? So there was exposure, and we already did contracts and pay to play. So yeah, those are the three big ones.
Yeah.
Oh, overly specific terms, outlines. There was a horror anthology a few years back that was a tribute theme anthology to a horror movie, and they were like, we will not accept any horror stories with cursing in them. No cursing whatsoever, and no sex, and no anything. So
All my stuff would be out.
Well, okay, I'm all done.
Yeah, I was like, when the monster comes, like, what's if there is a monster? It's like if they're eating someone, it's like, oh darn,
Oh golly!
Well,
golly gee.
if
So-
there's no sex, then the monster's never gonna come.
Yeah, a couple of friends of mine and I, we actually put out a competing anthology at the same time for another horror property, and it was a complete satire. Like, we weren't actually accepting stories, made sure that was enumerated, but we said specifically you can't use the word moist. If moist is in the story, it's out. Sorry, done.
Harriet, Amanda, do you want to add in on the red flags?
Yeah. Look, I as a publisher of anthologies, I'm always curious to see what other people are kind of putting on their pictures, and people love to promise the world. Like, you participate, you're going to be on the New York bestseller Times list. All of these promises that you kind of feeding that monster that you want to, be the writer that you want to be. But when I first started anthologies, and I'm still fairly new to anthologies, I did do the buy-ins. In return, that I never taken a publisher's cut, and that I would return all the money. As it was like a little collective, just to try and get us all up and running. But yeah, I've only now got to the point where I can fund the whole process. I'm just taking these writers along with me. So it wasn't a call out for public submissions at those times. It was just the writers groups that I was in, just to kind of get us up and running. But now that we're opened my doors to, the big wide world, I fund the whole project. So yeah, there are some people who ask for buy-ins at the 2,000-3,000 mark. It shouldn't cost you that much to produce a book. Especially with lots of authors, and especially if their books are quite small. So I only do short story anthologies, not massive anthologies. But yeah, I don't promise the world, and that's a huge red flag for me.
Yeah. Harry, do you want to add some?
I don't know if I really have anything to add. I kind of agree with JD on just everything he said, and then I guess I don't know if this is a red flag per se, but when you have an anthology call, but everyone's already been picked for it, and it's kind of a false promise in a sense, oh hey, you can submit to it, but just kidding, we already have all the people in it that we want to be in it. So it's well, okay, what was the point of me submitting then?
Yeah.
It's like a.
I've had that happen. So yeah.
No purchase necessary.
Oh, yeah. That's here, we'll let you apply to be in the group, but yeah, we don't. Yeah,
just kidding.
That's definitely. That would go on that never apply or submit to any of their stuff list. And then we've got some comments over here. Joe is commenting about the bookshelf behind Amanda. Anita says, I've had stories in 18 anthologies. That's a lot, Anita. We saw that one earlier. I don't like to pay to play anthologies either, from Anita, and avoid any contact with the word perpetual in it. It's in Wicked Delights. Oh, thanks, AC. And avoid any contract with the word perpetual in it. And Joe says, what am I exposing, I wonder? And then, Nikki joined us. No cursing or sex. What's the point of living? What's left to write about? Well, fudge that. Nope, and asking for exclusivity for more than a short time. And then Joe's calling me out. Maddie would be out in the first sentence if she can't use voice. Sorry, I write smut, guys. And Jonathan says maybe they just wanted clean work, but yeah, I've seen some oddly specific criteria, i.e. one project specifically listed no pregnancy, which was out of context for the theme anyway. There's not been many themes with those. And 2 anthologies was a part of, were funded through Kickstarter. And that's the end of those comments.
Kickstarter's been a boon.
Yeah. And they're good. They do pretty well with anthologies from what I've seen. So
another thing that I remembered is if it's not the first anthology that it's being released, read it and try to get a physical copy, because I've seen some that the editing and the formatting is absolute trash. And you can have the best story, but if it's presented on a plate of poop, It's gonna have an aftertaste of poop.
Always
Yeah,
inquire who your editor is going to be.
that is true. And I think some of them will state it. Like I know the one Adam is part of for the romance one and the one we did for Spice and Steam. It was on there that you were editing it.
Yeah, AC and I
yeah.
did all the editing.
So, and Amanda's got some great editors for the ones
Yeah.
she's done. So,
Yeah, I have quite a few, and I always secure the editor before I secure the cover. And I say, "What theme do you want?" And they'll all put their hand up and say, "Oh, I want this, I want that." And so they're all secured before we even start the process.
yeah.
Gotta
So-
have professional editors.
That kind of brings up the question, should you write stories specifically for like a themed anthology, or should you just write, and if you've got something, send it in?
The short answer to that is yes. If you're writing, then you're going to come up with stories that are going to fit anthologies. But I was thinking about it, and a lot of the stories that I have out in anthologies are ones that you wouldn't have pegged me. Like I said, I'm a sci-fi writer. You wouldn't have pegged me for writing. Winter Wonderland. That was an anthology that came out in the winter of 21. I got to write a fantasy romance story in there. And man, it had to be holiday themed, it had to be romantic, and it had to have fantastic elements in it. And I still managed to tie it into my Cassidy Chronicles universe. But I can, when I'm writing for anthologies, especially writing for a themed anthology, it's a writing exercise. It's okay. Can I do this? Can I squeeze what I usually do into a different shaped box? So,
And even if it doesn't get accepted, there might be an anthology later accepting something similar, because like post-apocalyptic anthologies are a dime a dozen. So if one doesn't accept it, the next one will.
right.
For example, or you can end up putting in a collection of your stuff that you release.
Yeah. Tiffany says that's a good questions, because I write so many novels. I don't write short stories, so the few I have wrote are all for anthologies. Joe says, yeah, I like the challenge personally. So
Yeah, I prefer a theme over an open submission, because when it's an open book, you could read it and then you're like, okay, I've got erotica here, horror here, sci-fi here, and you're kind of like all over the place. Like, I prefer themed anthologies myself.
Yeah.
How often do you go to a buffet where all of the food is great?
True.
Specificity will go a long way for quality, I think.
Oh, this is a good one. Nikki says anthologies gave me the push to put my work out there in some form, gave me some confidence as a writer.
That's very common, and that's something that I posted on Twitter, and someone commented that they basically their first publishing gig was an anthology, and that can break a lot of people through. For me, being from Puerto Rico, everyone's like, "Why don't you write in Spanish? Why don't you write in Spanish?" And then I got invited into a Spanish horror anthology, and it's not like it opened a floodgates. But
JD, I have a question.
Ask away.
Why don't you write in Spanish?
Because I have a book coming out in March that is in Spanish.
Oh.
But why did I? From my 19 books, 17 are in English. One is bilingual. The other one is Spanish. I'm gonna have another one in Spanish. I'm gonna have more Spanish stuff coming along. I'm just more secure writing in English than I am in Spanish, and I read a hell of a lot more in English than in Spanish. That has changed in the last couple of years. That's a whole other conversation, though.
Yeah, to JD's point, I don't get past the bacon tray usually. And then, so I won't write to anthologies far out of my genre, not yet, at least, but I'm a baby author still. Very true, AC. But you've got some good steamy stuff going. JD, I have a question, LOL. So Tiffany, go ahead and drop that question. Tell us what you got.
And
while we're still chatting.
I'd never written in horror until I got invited into that. So I wrote in Spanish plus horror. So it's two new things that I broke through, and some people bought the book because they go like, "Oh, this guy finally fucking wrote something in Spanish."
Now I feel like I need to go find this book that you wrote in Spanish, even if I can only understand pieces of it.
That's coming out in March. The one that I appear in, this is it. You asked earlier which one is the one that I like the most. This one, because the people who invited me, really good friends, really lovely people. I one of the owners of Icon is actually a professor, and he invited me to give a poetry workshop a couple weeks back. Just a lot of good people, and the community back home is booming, and a lot of cool people are breaking through. I'm really happy for them.
Yeah. And that actually kind of brings up a good question. How do you find anthologies to submit to, and how do you get invitations?
Invitations is easy. You already pretty much have to be an established presence in whatever genre you're writing in to get those sweet invites. But luckily, to become a presence, you just write for the ones that aren't invites. You cut your teeth on anthologies and short stories. It's the best advice I ever got. Was you cut your teeth on rejections, and you cut your teeth on short stories for anthologies, because you learn basically how to write and how to write in the genre that you want to succeed in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, getting invited to them, having the stuff out there, having that reputation, having the connections, the indie author community is wonderful for networking, because people are just very open and willing to do it. As for the, okay, that was a total train wreck. That completely went off the rails. Somebody while I try to recover.
Change your name to Jonathan Mayberry or Lee Murray.
Both of them are lovely people.
Yes.
Oh, and that is in response to AC's comment for JD. So, yeah, but definitely, what are back to that topic about getting invites and finding submissions,
Okay, so finding submissions, there are all sorts of resources. There's even a group on Facebook called Open Call, which is nothing but hey, got an anthology coming out. I need stories in this genre, or I need stories on this theme, but there are all sorts of resources like that. It doesn't take a lot of your Google food does not have to be particularly strong to find them.
Yeah, and the writing groups, I find the massive writing groups with 10, 20,000 people in them, they just get flooded with too much info. But the little ones, the ones with 200-300 members, are so tight knit, so sharing, because they go, hey guys, I heard there's an anthology call out, or something's available here. Is anyone interested? And you're like, oh, okay. And so you didn't even find the info yourself. You get it's shared with you. So those little tiny groups are little gems, and I cherish everyone in them.
Yeah, that's true. Anybody got anything else to add to that, Harriet? What are some of the ways you found them?
Well, like I said, I'm still pretty new to it because I'm just having my first one come out in a couple days. I just actually started marketing it a few months before the call came out, just to get people engaged and interested. And it was a pretty popular topic. It was Zodiac horror. So a lot of people like that. So people are like, oh, what kind of story should I write? I'm like, well, as long as it fits the sign you want to write for and it's horror, then go for it, I guess. So no, I'm still getting used to the whole figuring out what to accept and all that. So hopefully I'll have more for you next time.
Ooh, yeah. That's I'm still relatively new to the whole thing as well. So I kind of got invited by, I don't even know if I can do my fingers in the right direction. Okay, by Adam and Amanda to join theirs. So it's kind of I don't know if it was after an interview or what. I can't remember. But yeah, that's kind of stumbled into that.
Yeah, and I ask my authors as well. I say, guys, authors, and invite them, bring them in. So, and that's how that's part of networking. Every writer knows another writer. So
yeah, that is true. And Joe says it's pretty cool to be invited. Yeah.
There's if you're searching directly in genre, there's several different websites that keep track of anthology calls for those genres in question. The one I frequent is Horror Tree. They have a calendar view. It's like, this is the end date of this anthology, this end date of this one, that kind of thing. And I know I have a romance writer friend of mine who lives in California. I can't remember the site though, but there's one that she tracks for romance, and I'm sure there's others out there, but there's tons of websites like that. That calendar view is so useful.
Yeah. Like knowing when they start and end, like, okay, you need to have it in by this date. So make sure it's as awesome as you can make it. So, ooh.
No,
Yes.
For me, it was just knowing people and being around long enough for someone to go like, "You want to do something?" And I was like, "You want me? You want a story from me? Okay." And then people enjoyed that story enough that someone else was like, "Who's that guy?" And I got invited to the other one that I participated in, and the third one was related, and it just got dropped. So I have a hanging story about angels and something dark and something cool that I have to do something with, and I'm just starting another collection. So why not?
Ooh.
My frequent co-writer and I, Stephen Kozanowski, were putting out an anthology that's based on our novel, The Perfectly Fine House. It's called The Perfectly Fine Neighborhood. And so that's an open call right now. And that was the easiest acceptance I've ever gotten. I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Would you like to do this?" And I said, "Yes, I would."
Yes. I shared that not too long ago because that would be a fun little thing to do. So yeah, especially if you guys like the paranormal, that book and those topics, yes, that very fitting. So, what are some of the general pay rates you guys have gotten in on anthologies, or that you've seen?
The two most prevalent that I've seen, where you're actually getting paid, is either a royalty share, the some sort of formula for that the publisher will say, okay, this, you get this percentage of the royalties, or just a SIFWA flat rate, which I think right now is 8 cents a word.
Mm-hmm.
I always go for the flat rate when it comes to speaking in the horror genre experience, is that royalty rates for anthologies don't really pay out very well over time. So always go for the direct flat rate first, and I won't get out of bed for anything less than 2 cents. So I'm cheap.
I remember back when I started writing stories, it was considered a decent rate if you were getting 3 cents a word.
Yeah.
So
3 cents is the most common. Some people who are a little better fun, 6 cents a word is right behind that. And there's actually one that is coming out this weekend that's paying 10 cents a word. And I was like, well, time to make a short story in 2 days.
Right.
I can't say I have not done that because I have.
I'm a bit different. I pay royalties, but I also, Fantasy Christmas became a really top seller, so that hit bestseller in 4 countries for 4 weeks. Maintained that, but given it's a Christmas one, I can promote it every Christmas, and we did get BookBub as well. So the BookBub's God granted us, and all the authors have been really happy with the checks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what y'all sold me on, was getting into an anthology, was the whole thing from that Christmas one. So, and Joe says HWA and SFWA both have listings for its members too. RWA did too, but I would probably not recommend being a member of that train wreck. It's good to know. Jonathan says, FYI, if any of you know of producers, editors that have projects with open submissions, then you can send them my way. I will share the project all around. I am on the lookout for some opportunities. Mr. Wiley Young and Amanda, you both have stuff I know for sure. So,
I
think
yes.
Adam, we're still getting submissions too, right? For romance one. Anita says, yeah, royalty rates kind of suck. Joe, for royalties, it depends on the publisher and their track record. For me personally, Nikki says, awesome on the Fantasy Christmas. Congrats.
Thank you.
What are some other payout methods? Have y'all seen anything different than those? Like not getting paid at all? Here we're gonna.
Yeah, that's a pretty common one. Just saying, oh yeah, here, submit. That goes back to the point about the exposure.
Hmm.
And also there's the flat rate. $10. Okay, here you go. We want a 5,000 word story. We'll pay $25. Done. They'll put a cap on it and say this is how much we're paying. Just not per word. If it's 4,000 words or 8,000 words, if the cap is 10,000 words, they'll just say we're going to pay you this much money.
Yeah.
Pay in copies.
Do you think an anthology should focus on a single genre, or are multi-genre anthologies the thing that flies? That's a great question, actually.
I think it should be either theme or genre, but it needs an anchor. Again, I've seen some train wrecks that I started reading. I'm like, what the hell is this? And someone told me, oh, the sixth story is really good, and I'm like, it's like when someone says, oh, you have to power through season 1, but season 2 is worth it. I'm like, screw you, no, I'm good.
Sometimes the theme is a multi-genre. Let's mix comedy and horror together. Let's mix sci-fi and romance together. That's the theme. That is a multi-genre anthology.
That's true, because you can get a lot just from that little bit, a lot of variety. Ooh.
Yeah, and I'm in speculative fiction, so we don't deep dive directly into a particular genre. We kind of like to mix and match and burn it up a bit. But at the same time, whatever we put a collection together, we kind of really make sure that they sing to one another, so it's not a real dramatic hit from one story to the next. Or we're not copying or kind of too similar when we come to one story might focus on death. Well, then the next death story won't be until like the end. So kind of like map it out so you're getting a nice wave in between the genre mix-ups.
Oh, Anita brought up a good one. Charity anthologies are the only ones I do for free. That's normally for a really good cause though. Like it's not just here I'm gonna get this story out there with this person and not make anything off of it. So
right. I mean, I did one for C.L. Cannon's Wicked Wishes. That's a charity anthology, and absolutely fine. There you go.
I'm doing one this summer.
Yeah. Jay brings up a good point about for new young writers. Don't you think anthologies are a good experience for young writers, like letting them get some of their first works in front of a proper editor?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Completely.
Anthologies will teach you teach your mistakes, teach you your strengths way more than writing a full novel will be, and they take not even a quarter of the time, take less than 1% of the time to do so.
Yeah.
But also seasoned writers, like there's no point in don't stop yourself because I've got some techniques under my belt, I'm feeling really confident with my novel. I jump back into an anthology that someone's, called out. I'm back to square one. I'm out of the box. I'm trying to get new techniques, new ways of writing. So it's always a learning curve, no matter what part of the writing journey you're on.
I think Adam brought it up earlier and what you're hitting on right there, Amanda, is it's the challenge. You're writing outside, especially for a theme. I have to write something to fit this theme. It's a challenge to do so, and that can really sharpen your teeth.
Yeah. No, the anthology that AC and I put out, and she made the point in the comments. It's got to be one or the other. Either a genre or a theme. Our theme was, it all had to be very spicy. It had to bring the heat, but it could be any genre. So we ended up with a story which really it's a horror story. I'm thinking of Clark's. Maddie, you know the one. The one.
Yeah. It's like
license and names, like what's us?
Yeah.
I have the book in front of me. I can just look it up.
Yeah.
It's our default. Like when you become a writer, you cannot remember names.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Sugar and Spice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
it is a horror story. It is absolutely a horror story, but it had that steamy element to it. I wrote a science fiction story that went in there. There are romance stories. There are shifter stories.
Yeah.
So it was across a whole range of genres, but it all had the same theme. So it all worked, and you got to have something tying it all together.
Yeah. And I was going to read Jay's comment. This is one of my debate points Monday. If you can't sell someone on 5K words, you can't sell them on 100K. So true. Even stand-up comedians, comedians go out with new material and use the smaller clubs to test it out. I look at writing for anthos in the same way. That's true. You can definitely challenge yourself with them. What are some of the themes or topics that have challenged you guys the most when submitting a piece to an anthology or a collection or like a compilation by different authors?
Okay. Romance flash fiction. 1,500 word romance story. I write novels that are 110,000 words, and they're science fiction. That was a challenge.
It's make a brochure sexy. That's what they basically
Yeah.
Right? So, but I had fun doing it, and actually today I was working. They're doing another anthology, and I was like, "All right, I'll send another one off to them." So, off for another romance flash fiction.
Interesting.
Maddie's like, "Come to the dark side."
Have wine and coffee.
Adam's gonna get his own shower.
No.
You're welcome.
I did put a shower scene in the story I submitted to the anthology though, so it's funny that you say that.
The irony.
Can't have steamy without the shower.
No, and they like to give me crap because Black Flames, my series starter for the Ember series, which book 2 just recently dropped, has a very steamy shower scene. So yeah. So what has been y'all's challenges though? Everybody else.
A 200-word on the spot, couldn't leave the room piece of flash fiction that had to be written in 10 minutes that uses the words verdigris, earth, what was it? Alabaster, and mausoleum, and research.
Wow.
And I won $50.
Woohoo.
Nice.
That's a challenge and a half. Oof.
The bigger challenge was accepting the $50 that was rubbed in a guy's armpits before he gave it to me.
Ew.
Money's money.
Yeah, money's money.
Yeah.
For No CFS also, the challenge was to write something that was, apart from it being in Spanish, it had to be tied to Puerto Rico in some way. You could tackle it any way that you wanted, but you had to either the character or the location or something. And I included several different things to try to make it as organic and as places that I've walked through. And for the other one, it's like you had to make something Lovecraftian. So writing something Lovecraftian in Spanish, that was interesting, and I think I did pretty good. I enjoyed the end result, and some people have said you're a creepy bastard. So I take that as a huge compliment.
I struggle with erotica, romance, all that steamy stuff. I can't do it. I'm just not there. And
You
people
came to the wrong neighborhood.
say that again.
No, I was just making a joke about the 3 on top. You came to the wrong neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure, right? Yeah. So anything I have to do romance stuff, I'll kind of like dot point it, and then I'll send it to my writing sister, and I'm like, please help me here. Like Yeah. And it's like a default of mine because my husband will like, let's go and see a romance movie, and I'm like, are you shitting me? Like, there's a new Marvel movie out. I want guts and gore and action. Yeah, that's me. And then I come to this moment where my characters need to have a lovey-dovey scene, and I'm like, do I have to write this? Like, this is not me.
I like the action stuff too over the romance, but I don't know why. I can write it easy peasy. So
yeah, clearly I'm just not romantic.
Oh gosh. And okay. We're just gonna like leave those comments.
Speaking of going off the rails.
And I know the story that AC is referencing, and it's a really good little story. But
it was cleaner. So the one for the anthology.
Yes, the one for the next anthology. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, so let me get back on my train of thought here. As the editor, publisher, and submitting, what is something when you get accepted into the anthology that the person running it starts out with? Like, do they have a marketing plan in mind and fill you in on it from the get-go, or do you do edits and then pick up the marketing plan later?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is timing. The first anthology was released, and the marketing was, warm up your winter nights with, spice and steam, this steamy anthology. The next one is romantic origins is the theme. So it's coming out in the spring, the season of renewal. And so that's how we're going to tie in the marketing. And you have to have authors who are willing to pitch in. You have to have authors who are willing to say, who are going to put it out in their newsletters and put it out on social media and talk about it and let people know. Otherwise, it's just going to go.
If someone has an interesting way that they're going to approach it, obviously it's going to pique my interest, and I'll hop on board. For No Cierres los Ojos, they did an artwork for the little short story that I wrote.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
Plus, it's me.
Ah.
So they did profiles for all the authors and stuff like that, and they look at the interior of how it's formatted. It just looks pretty.
Oh, wow.
So
I've seen a couple books that have done the white on black, and that it's really sharp looking print.
I thought it was gonna bother my eyes while reading, and it actually was pretty comfortable. I was surprised.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So
Harriet, I have a question for you about the I can't recall the name of it. It was my top book for last year. We talked about
Summoning.
it. Yes. Okay.
Oh God.
How did y'all pick the stories to be featured in that?
We actually are the ones that wrote them ourselves.
Nice. So yeah. So her book, guys, is one. It's not technically an anthology, but eight different authors, right?
No, it's 3 main authors, and then we had 2 contributors, to help with the prologue and one of the short stories. So yeah, technically there's 5 of us, but 3 of us wrote 90% of the story for the book. Yeah. It's a faux anthology.
Yeah, that is actually a great description for it because it does have the short stories in it and use different authors for that. So yeah. How did that process work? Picking what you wanted in there.
It was actually Stuart who was the one who headed the whole thing. He was just like, okay, I want 5,000 words. I want it to be, or I want us to all go to different subgenres like body horror or supernatural, but just I want it to be 5,000. I want it to be horror, and we would submit it ahead of time to him, being like, okay, this is what we got. Is it good enough? Is it not? And then he would critique, saying, oh yeah, this is good, or no, I want this instead. And it was quite the process, considering I'm in the States, and they're both him and Jessica are both in the UK.
Oh.
So that was, yeah, that was fun. A lot of meetings.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And Joe's got a good question for us. I forgot to go back to it a second there. Have any of you submitted for an anthology because of the authors you know have been invited?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
technically, yeah.
But
Yeah.
you don't tell them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
I submitted to last year's Superstars Writing and Seminars anthology because I had gotten to know a bunch of the other people who were going to be submitting stories. And I was like, oh, okay, if I can get a story in there, that's going to be really cool.
yeah.
Didn't quite, but I made the first cut.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of big names too. So
Oh, cool.
yeah.
But for me, names, at least not yet. That hasn't been the pull for me. The pull is if, first off, the invite. Second off, if the topic is interesting, I go like, oh, now I can't get it out of my brain, you asshole. And then I have to write it.
Right.
The list of short story ideas and projects that I have written down is very long, and I'm just chipping away at it, and eventually I will finish it, but I'll just keep tackling something. So it's that new sparkly squirrel that I go like,
Yes.
Yeah, totally relate. If there's got the call that has the right theme and it just sparks my interest. But then there's times where like they've put out a theme and I'm like, oh, I really like that. I can write something, and then I go blank. And I'm like, okay, that one's not for me. It has to spark me. It really has to spark me.
Yeah.
That really only happened once. Usually it's just the theme, but one time there was a horror anthology coming out that it was everybody I knew was submitting to, and I was like, I'm not going to let all of you hog the glory. I mean,
And that's actually kind of a fun thing to do, if you ask me. So, and AC, I want to go to Superstars, but it's the wrong time of year for me. Got to teach my students, damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only so many hours in the day. Who needs sleep, right?
when you're at a convention, you don't sleep.
Oh, nope. No, you don't. Even if you're off caffeine, you find yourself drifting in to get a cup of caffeinated coffee.
Yeah. And when there's just that little moment of quiet time, my eyes just glaze over. And then I was like, oh, someone's in front of me.
Yes. Yes. Like, when did you appear? Like, wait, what? What happened?
And I said 2.5 days. What's wrong with me? Why didn't I just say 2 days?
Yes.
It's intense.
So another fun question. What can you do in order to increase your chances of like getting your story into a specific anthology if you're not invited and you're like submitting to it?
Well, Wiley, I think it was Wiley, or was it JD? One of you guys said, if it's a follow-up anthology, pick up a previous copy. Pick up a previous anthology, see what they were looking for, because you get a sense of the styles that they like and the themes that they like. Ask other authors who are submitting to it. Talk to them. Talk to the if the name of the editor is out there, or the publisher, ask, make connections.
Yeah.
If one of my characters says, and you've heard me say it, Maddie, and I think JD's heard me say it, if I don't ask, you can't say yes.
That's true.
So go out and ask questions.
And
Yeah.
As for improving your chances of getting there, I think that's almost like getting a job. Yeah, you can have a banging resume, but if you don't have word of mouth and people pimping you out, if you have 2 people pimping you out, that's great. And if more people get added to that group, it's like, oh, you're looking for someone. This guy, ask that guy, ask that girl, and just get out there. And it's been mentioned that this could be a good experience for new writers. Exposure will get you opportunities. Just be stubborn and keep at it.
Yeah. And don't submit drafts. Like, there have been a few times where I'm reading this and I'm like, wait, what's happening? What's happening here? And I'll reach out to the author and I go, like, I just want some feedback on where your head was at when you're submitting it. And they're like, oh, I'm thinking about this and then I'm thinking about that and I'm here and I'm there. And I'm just like, okay, here's your story back. Workshop it. Go get some advice. And, and I'm generous. I will put my advice in there. But, like, I will kind of kick them up the butt as well. I don't want drafts. I don't have time for drafts. Work on it. Give it your best work. But I'd rather, because I structurally edit, so I'd rather structurally edit someone who's got the fire out under their ass, who's so passionate about these stories and want to, like, deep dive into the world, rather than, I think I've got this character. I think I've got this. Like, that's not a story. There's no fire under your ass. Love your character, follow them, and get into that world and explore it.
Yeah.
But be kind with the fire. Don't be an asshole. Yes. Because if someone has advice to offer and it makes sense, listen. A lot of people don't listen.
There's two things. One that is serious and one that is facetious. First, the serious one. Publisher I deeply respect that said this the other day. Every story under the sun has been told, but how do you tell it? What is your voice? And if you are passionate about it and you have a way of telling this story that is in your voice and hasn't been heard before, that stands out. And for the facetious one, don't threaten the publisher with violence.
Yeah.
Which has happened. That's a long.
Yeah, that's probably not going to end well.
No.
I mean,
yeah. But going back to the passion, I mean, if you're in love and you're passionate about that story, then bad writing is forgiven. It really is forgiven. And the editors and the workshopping and all that will improve the writing. But if you have that passion, like, look at Twilight and how much times it's being revised and studied and gone through universities looking at it. And they're saying the writing is really not there. Yeah. But because the passion is there and the characters and the love and the world, it will always you be overlooked, the writing.
Yeah.
Okay, but sometimes it's marketing, because 50 Shades of Grey sucks, but it's such a good name.
Yeah.
It's like 50 Shades of Grey and someone said, like, I'm going to be a millionaire. Just the title. The story sucks or whatever. Yeah. I haven't read it. I haven't watched it. It is a baseless opinion. I know, but I'm also not. I don't think I'm missing something that will be life changing. I'm not.
No, you're not.
The best part of 50 Shades of Grey is when Christian Grey uses the Force to make a girl kneel. He puts it like that. She's like halfway across the room, and she kneels. I was like, "What was that?"
I mean, it's a good point, because there's not a lot of, like, anything going on. Like, they try to hint at the true thing behind it, but they don't actually, like, get it to come across unless you're, like, looking for it. So
between the name and that it was allowed for WASP women and women who are normally sexually repressed to read it and embrace it and stuff like that, obviously it's going to make money. And it's good that book exists, and hopefully they'll pick up more and get more of their friends to read, and people can lighten the hell up.
50 Shades of Grey had too many email chains.
It did. So I didn't have enough, like, good stuff to it, other than, like, sex, obviously. But
no email chains. There was no sex.
Oh, it's the end. I said what I said. I'm from that community, and 50 Shaded is garbage. Equals still better love. I have to agree with that. I do. Y'all probably do too. So, I mean,
Maddie, you remember in college I did that 10-page paper about Twilight.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and Riley was the one that actually introduced me to the parody of Twilight, which was actually better than actual Twilight. So, yeah. Oh, man. So, what are the steps you take for your own work before you do submit it? Because I know we've all mentioned like making sure like it's the best work we can send in. But what are some of the steps you guys take like personally to make sure it's the best?
Besides edit, and edit some more. And if you have some beta readers that you trust, get them to beta read it and make sure it makes sense. And don't forget, you're going to edit it a little bit, and make sure, like Wiley said, make sure it fits the guidelines. If it's a 6,000, if it's supposed to be a 6,000 word story and it comes in at 6,003, find 3 words that you can take out of it, because there are some editors will be fine with it. Some publishers will be fine with that. Others will be just like, nope. We said 6,000. It's 6,003. That's a no.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes people, I work in advertising, and we have to economize words so often. It's ridiculous. The 30-second spot is lasting 34 seconds, so you have to cut from where you think that there's nothing to cut. Some people say, I just don't know where to cut, and sometimes you see the first 3 sentences and you go like, that could be 1 sentence, man.
Yeah.
Cutting those excess words, and having an editor too really helps. An editor that will not pull your punches. Mine, for example, one of my short stories that was actually accepted. At one point, I saw one of her notes, and she said, "This sentence is a bigger train wreck than the one in this story. Get rid of it."
The brutal truth. Love it.
Yeah, and just having editors that respect you, and you respect them, because as writers, we're in our heads, we're in our imaginations, we think it's gone onto the page, it's the way that we thought, and the editor comes back and goes, you really need to kind of like not do that, and here's some advice. And then when you come back and you're looking at that advice and you're looking back at your work, you're seeing it from a different angle, and standing up and saying, no, I'm going to stand what I wrote, doesn't help you as a writer. Is to take on the advice, look at it from their perspective, and then, and revise it. Mm-hmm.
If they send it back to you and say, hey, these are the suggestions before we look at it again, like you were saying, Amanda, then, look, take advantage of those suggestions.
Yeah.
The editor is giving you their time and their expertise.
Yeah. We certainly paying for it as well. So, these editors aren't free, and if you're investing in them, they're investing in you.
Yeah. Harriet, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I was just gonna say I have an editor personally that looks over all my stuff before I submit it, and she's been my editor on all of my books, and I trust what she says. Occasionally, like if I don't have time, I'll submit it to like a couple betas or something close to I know are gonna be like, hey, this sucks. Fix this or do this or whatever. But I go to my editor for a lot of things because it's just I trust her word on it.
Yeah, gotta have those good editors. So we have one question. We've got time for like one question left, and we've got a question from the commenter, the groups. So, what did the best anthologies you've been involved with have in common? Ooh. That's a great question.
A good editor.
3 things, and Adam started: a good editor, a good theme, and a good TOC.
Mm-hmm.
If the TOC usually has to be varied, you don't want a bunch of the same voices all at once. Get a lot of different life experiences in there, and I've had rejections before from it. It's like I like this story, but it's not quite what we're going for, and we already have some others that are kind of like it. And you don't take that personally.
Yeah, that's the kind of advice you want. You don't want to get the one back. This is absolute trash. So,
well, the one that I enjoyed the most, the people that were participating, half of them are people that I know in some form and are people that I'm fond of. if there's an anthology that there's someone that I think is an asshole, it's not like I won't participate. But I will even write probably even harder just to try to show up that person and go like, he sucks.
More
Oh,
motivation.
sprite writing.
Yeah.
And include a little Easter egg like, yeah, I killed this person.
Yeah. So anybody else?
Mine probably is a little bit different than everyone else's, but one of the anthologies that I was submitted in, or I submitted to and got accepted in, was it's a very controversial topic, but we're all like strong, independent women and women that I personally respect and have been with on before on projects. So that was probably my personal favorite, anthology to be a part of, and just that was the theme. It was all independent women who had the same thoughts on very hard subjects.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good one for sure. So
Maddie, Nikki had a sort of a question further up at 852 that I think is a really good one to
let me see
talk
if I can
about.
scroll back up. I apologize for missing some of these guys. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Not sure if this was discussed, but I love anthologies that tell one long story that links them together in some way. Last Stop, edited by David Green, comes to mind as one that pulled it up off very well, but it isn't something seen often. Do you all know more like this? Ooh.
Yeah, they're extremely difficult to organize. We've tried it twice, and both times have failed epically. I've seen it done once very well through a blog feed where you follow the authors through a blog feed on one topic. They'd have two characters and you're just following the characters. But as in same world, same story, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. And I have to say, I've submitted to one now that I think about it. If Ron ever gets it done, I wrote in the same world. It's kind of like spins off of his first, the Children of Catholic books. And it is really hard to because he sent me this huge, it was like a packet of the different deities and stuff in the world. I was just like, oh my gosh, what have I signed up for? I mean, I still managed to make it work, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about shared universe on steroids. Wow.
I've seen it like Amanda. I've seen it 2-3 times, and each time it's gone epically wrong, badly. There was one 65 Stirrup Iron Road, and which had pretty much a who's who of horror authors, which was written for charity for another author's medical expenses, and that was from what I understand from everybody involved, it was a nightmare. And at one point, probably the biggest name of all who participated in it came in and just blew it all out of the water, and then they all had to work around that. It's like, I did what I did to fix it.
oh, yeah, that would make it rough.
Yeah. But I do enjoy the ones that are maybe not necessarily one long continuous story, but they all take place at the same location.
Yeah, definitely like the linked part. So
right, the diner thing, the people down at the end of the booth, the waitress behind the counter, the trucker out in the parking lot, the ones that are all taking place at the same spot are really cool to do, and they're a little bit easier to manage.
Yeah, as a reader, I find such anthologies to be so satisfying to read. The shared story ones, individual stories about a central location from Nikki. Yeah. Thank you for bringing it back up. Yes, I'm glad he pointed it out, because that was in the midst of everybody commenting super fast, so it kind of got skipped over.
She also said, it's true. 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight brought people joy. My illiterate cousin read Twilight. I cannot fault it.
There are people who started reading because of Twilight or because of 50 Shades or whatever, right. And it gets people reading. So I might think I might not like it, but you can only diss it so much. And in the end, you do you. Screw it.
That's right.
I think Avatar sucks. Blue dick, but just because that's my opinion doesn't mean that I'm gonna bash anyone that enjoyed the experience. It's like, hey, you do you, and I'm genuinely happy that you enjoyed it. I think
Yeah.
it sucks, and we can still get along.
Yeah, but that's because the passion is there. The passion, the writing's not there, but the passion is there, and so people will not, like they will give more leniency because the writing's not there. So if you're in the passion, you're passionate about your story and your characters and where they're at, they'll forgive the writing.
Nice. All right, guys. So we're going to go around and tell everybody like where they can find you and your work, but I also want you to address this question in the midst of you sharing everywhere people can find you. That can everyone on the panel make one suggestion? So, which I think we can all definitely add to that. But I'm going to start with Amanda, and we'll go from there. So tell us where you can find or where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me. I'm pretty easy to find. Everything is that way. aawarn.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at aawarn. Very easy. For the writers who are looking for submissions, I have 2 open at the moment: a Christmas young adult fantasy one, and a sci-fi one that's opened. Very short stories, no buy-ins, paid royalties. So go to my website, it's aawarn.com, and go to the tab for writers. And I'm always putting up some stuff there as well. What was the question, Maddie?
An anthology you would recommend, and I have to add to your thing, you have great publishers and beta readers for yours. So you guys interested in it, like submitting, definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's a bit of a process. You get loads of feedback with mine.
But it's worth it. So worth it.
I have a lot of new writers come back, and it's all about just leveling up. Just level up. Very supportive, very protective. No nasty comments. But yeah, if you're starting to read, for anthologies, I recommend the Fantasy Christmas Tales from the Hearth, and it's every Christmas story that you can imagine from with fantasy elements. And it just comes in, it's a wide variety. So my story in that one is called Franken-Santa, where 3 little elves accidentally kill Santa Claus and think it's a good idea to bring him back to life. But he's not quite Santa Claus as you remember. So that's my story.
Yes. All right, Harriet. You still muted, hon.
Sorry about that. You can still find me on Instagram, TikTok are my 2 big ones. I do have Facebook, but I'm rarely on it. I did have Twitter, but with the whole implosion of that, I had to get out because
yeah. Don't blame
you. Oh my
you.
God. And I'm sorry, I still didn't catch your question. What was it you were saying before?
An anthology you would recommend to readers.
Well, I do have one it's not my own, I will admit that, but one anthology I do recommend, especially fan, is I Hear the Clattering of Keys by Janie Stewart. Really good, a lot of different pieces of horror in that, and he's just fantastic.
Ooh, awesome.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Mr. Wiley?
Okay, so all my stuff is available through Amazon. You can find it there. I do have a newsletter called Transmissions from Black Hole Planet 3. If you can name that reference, I'll probably put you in a book. I've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Those are all under Texas Cthulhu. And for anthology, I would recommend is the one I flashed at the beginning, Clickers Forever. It is out of print right now, but you can. There are still some used copies on Amazon you can get, and probably on eBay. And also, there will be a reprint edition coming out at some point. And like I said, this one, when you buy it, all the proceeds go to this man's family. Jesus Gonzalez he came up with the Clickers universe, and so I was lucky enough to get to play in it. So,
love it. All right, JD.
Dude, read Spanish. Learn Spanish. Read Spanish. No cierre los ojos. They're doing the No cierre los ojos 3. These are really cool people. Really messed up minds. I am very proud to have been part of that one. That's one I'm gonna recommend because no one's ever gonna recommend something in Spanish on this channel unless it's me, damn it. You can find me at JD Estrada Writer. I'm still navigating the random waters of Twitter and seeing how Elon Musk bitched about working so much but posting memes because that makes sense. If you want to read something random from me that actually feels like an anthology, it's all in English and it's called 2020. This is my latest release. The original version of this book is bilingual. I translated the Spanish part, the Puerto Rican, because it's not really Spanish. It's written in Puerto Rican because a text translator served dick in the translation. It's got poetry, it's got short stories, it's got essays, and it's spec fiction. So there's fantasy, there's sci-fi. There's, I think the best short story that I've ever written yet is there. It's called Journeyman, about a boxer that is just trying to have one more good fight. I'm a fan of boxing. And if you want something really, really random, this is worthy of the Addams Family collection, Rhymes from the Wicked Nursery. I read nursery rhymes, and suddenly I was like, I'm gonna write nursery rhymes, and I wrote 80. So you can check that out.
Sweet.
All right, so you can find me Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all as Adam Gaffin. Comes from having a uncommon name. For an anthology, AC is going to kill me if I don't do what she asked me to do, which is recommend our anthology, which is Spice and Steam. It is, like I said before, it's all themed around, they all have a very steamy scene in them, but they're across a whole bunch of genres. There's a cryptid story in there, there's science fiction, there's fantasy, there's shifters, there's witches. And if Jonathan, if you're still listening to me and you want to try something much like JD did, which is, collect a bunch of my own stuff. This is all set in my Cassidy Chronicles universe. So this is all science fiction, but I got to play around with other genres in there, like I did a noir detective story and a teenage rom-com. So have fun with it, and feel free to drop me a line at CassidyChronicles.com because you can contact me through there.
Sweet. All right. And guys, so we've made it back to me. I'm Madilynn Dale. You can find all my work at the Chapter Goddess. The anthology I'm going to recommend is not out yet. It is coming out soon, and it is actually with Miss Amanda. I'm going to recommend that you check out Deals in Blood. I'm really excited about the story I have in that collection because it was also a cathartic way for me to process something that was happening in my life at the time. But Deals in Blood has got some great stories in it. I actually got to beta read and help with some of the editing process in it too. But yeah, and we'll have updates coming on that soon. Also, while we're here, make sure you hit the like button, show us some love, check out everybody's links in the description, go snag copies of their books, of the anthologies they've mentioned, and subscribe if you haven't. Go Indie Now has a lot of great stuff coming up, even over the weekend. We have Talking Indie Mayhem tomorrow. It's later in the day as well. For some reason, I'm blanking on the time, but you'll be with me live as I roast all of the wonderful contestants and Ron and RJ from Monday's show, Indie Mayhem, our crazy game show. There's going to be some fun things because I actually got to be a guest Monday. And then Sunday, we will be live again with This Week in Indies, where I am hosting this week's discussion as we talk about the intricacies of world building. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you, authors, for jumping in on this fun discussion. Everyone have a good night. And remember that it is always time to go indie now.